Okay, can I get y'all's attention?
Yeah, this is reserved for a cook.
Get your gavel.
Oh, okay. Ow.
Oh, okay. I got to use it first.
Okay, well, thank y'all for coming to our meeting tonight. We have, our meeting tonight has 5 people signed up to talk. So just to let y'all know, the rules is that those are the 5 people that are allowed to talk. Everybody else is all here as visitors. And so just want to make sure that's understood beforehand. Also, with 5 people, and also we're going to have the proposals tonight. It's going to take some while. So we're going to set up like a 3-minute time. And Ken, can you?
Yes, sir.
So we'll watch. So while y'all are talking, and then he'll give you a warning about 1 minute till, so you can kind of wrap up your talk. But again, we thank y'all for coming to our meeting tonight, and y'all are invited back anytime y'all want to come back. We usually the 3rd Tuesday of the month is when we meet. So I guess we'll get started. We're putting together a forum with the people of Ken Weiswinder, Jerry Stevens, and Abby Beadle, and myself, Jeff Howard. So we'll get started.
It's 7:06.
Oh, and Todd is absent tonight.
He's not feeling well.
We'll have recognition of citizens. The first one is Debbie Randall.
Debbie. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I was too busy yammering.
That's all right.
I was hoping to talk at different times when things on the agenda came up. I don't really have a speech. And what I have to say, we don't know the answers to because we haven't seen the proposals. So I just wanted to speak after we knew all the details or ask questions. I didn't really want to make a speech.
Okay.
Ms. Randall, you might consider coming to the next meeting and signing up,
Yeah,
because you'll have all the information from this meeting whenever we go to our next meeting next week on Tuesday night. Then
Yeah, I'll
all
be
the-
here next week. But I just thought I'd have questions later on in the meeting.
Okay,
So
well,
that's why I put my name on there, so I would be able to ask the questions.
okay, well, what we're going to do is, just like Abby said, if you'll just be here next week,
Okay.
that we just bring them up then if we can.
Mulligan.
Yeah. Well, you're first signed in for next week. Yeah. Daniel Alinger.
I'd be in the same boat as far as the conversation goes.
Okay. All right. David Alinger.
A lot of people know me. And even my son, he
knows you.
doesn't say too much, but we're grateful to be able to say something. And one of the things I'd like to drive home is we don't want any more extra taxes coming out of the fire department. We do want transparency with the budget and the money's going in and coming out of the fire department. And we want response for safety in the community. That's my statement. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Austin
I was in
Alinger.
the same boat as Debbie. Just wanted to
Okay.
chime in every now and then if I could.
Okay, Phyllis Martin.
I'm the same with this, Debbie. I'm not going to speak until I know what's actually on the table there.
Okay. Okay, well then, thank y'all. We'll move on to the purpose of this called meeting, and it's basically to discuss the contracting for the fire services. We have ESD1 Chief Cook. If you want to start, it's all yours.
Step off into the line.
Yeah, just jump in there.
All right. Good evening. For those that don't know me, my name's Clint Cook. I'm the fire chief for Medina County ESD1. Came into the district about almost 4 years ago. September will be 4 years. Ironically, September will also be 30 years in the fire service for me, so it's been a long road. Started off as a volunteer. Started off in very similar situations as this community. 100% volunteer. I can proudly say not one time, never took a stipend, never did it. It was always just for the love. Eventually made a career change and have been fortunate to have some success and ended up out here as a fire chief. A couple months ago, got a phone call from a couple of these gentlemen that both of them didn't even know the other had called me, I think, in the end. Said, hey, we have a little bit of trouble out here. We're told that you might be able to help us. And that's all I'm here for. I'm here to help, whatever that looks like. I've got no agendas, contrary to what any assumption. I can tell you I'm an open book. I will tell you everything, sometimes probably more transparent than some people care to want to know. Because the only way we build trust is to just lay it all on the table and just talk about what's going on, what got us here, how do we fix it, what are the options for fixing it. You know, the best thing I've told this board is that nobody here, this situation is not new to any community. This has happened over and over across the state. I sit on some state stuff. I've had the opportunity to consult for some other agencies in very similar situations. I came into a very similar situation. My ESD1 was contracting to 4 separate volunteer fire departments, 2 paid EMS agencies, and they had no transparency. They didn't know what each agency was doing with the money. One agency had 120-something thousand in the bank, the other agency had 20,000 in the bank. Some were providing this level of training, others were doing over here, but there was no consistency. And the ESD had a few dollars in the bank because they didn't want to spend it, not knowing what they were going to get for the return. So we've had a little bit of success, I believe. And I guess based off of that success, got a great relationship with the county. For those that don't know, the county judge is back here, and then your commissioner, Daniel Alder. We communicate quite a bit on all county issues. And so when the board called and said, how can you help? I said, well, I can lay out what I think it would take to do it, and that's what I did. And so I'm going to hand them a packet. Anybody can ask me anything about this packet. It's got what I think it costs to run a fire department, or to run this fire department. It also talks a little bit about tax rates, about the budget, and so Mr. Ellinger made an interesting statement. We don't want new tax. We don't want to have to pay for it, but we do want the service. Right? Those two don't always go together. Unfortunately, it does cost money. The good news is, and the state legislature has already capped how much an ESD can ever charge. For those that don't know that cap, it's actually capped about 3 times the way it works out with the way you can grow the revenue. This district, on average, you pay, on average, as you sit today for your fire protection, you're paying on average $154 a year. That's based off of average home value of $225,000. I suspect it's probably going to go to $230,000 this year, and you're paying 6.87% of that. 6.87% of the $100 of assessed value. So the easiest thing with ESDs is an ESD has a tax rate max of 10 cents per $100 of assessed value. That is their statutory cap. There is nothing we can do to go above a 10-cent statutory cap on revenue. This ESD currently taxes at 6.87%. So the easiest math on that is you take that $225,000, that's 68.7% of that, and that's what the average homeowner is paying for fire protection. In comparison, Natalia next door has the exact same taxable value within $10 million, which represents $10,000 at 10 cents, and they're at 9.76. 9.61. It's a $3 per month difference. That's it, $3 a month difference in those tax rates. That equates to $200,000 a year. So I always caution people whenever they start talking about ESD ad valorem tax, because it is, I acknowledge it's something, but $3 a day, $18 a month, let's see what I have it at. About $15 a month for your ESDs to provide your fire protection. So that's something to think about, because one of the things this board's going to have a responsibility to do is set a tax rate here pretty quick. They have to adopt a budget, they have to set a tax rate. Most of that has to be done by August 25th. So there's some time crunch stuff. So when I came in and I said, right now, one thing I would tell you is Last time I was here, the president told me he thought they would like to provide the highest level of service that they could afford. Okay. I think that's a fair statement, because if you're providing the highest level of service that you can afford, if something doesn't go right, you say, man, I'm doing everything I can. I cannot do anymore. But if it's because you don't think you need the service yet, that's a little sketchy. Because when something doesn't go right, well, why didn't you do that? Well, we were trying to, so I would have rather just paid you the $3 extra a month and had that higher level of service versus you saving me $18 a year or whatever that is, $36 a year, did nothing to help me. So I prepared a budget that basically took the level of service you're providing right now. That's 2 full-time personnel a day. That's a full-time chief officer that's assigned within our organization, that's assigned under our command staff, that reports directly to myself, that follows our policies and guidelines, and that provides a service. I think some of the things you got to look at is you got a cultural thing that you got to, Devine Volunteer Fire Department is rooted in this community. I don't think that needs to go away. I really don't. I think there's been some challenges, but there's a way to do this whole thing without the Devine Volunteer Fire Department going away, because I think, though my knowledge of the current roster is most folks probably don't have more than a few years, so it's not that long-term ingrained history with the Devine Volunteer Fire Department with the existing personnel, but it is the culture of this community. These small town communities, I'll be the first to tell you, I came from the big city. My heart's in a small town. I'm just a country guy, but I did come from the big city. My last department, I covered 110,000 people in 50 square miles. And so it's, but I came out here for a reason. And so I enjoy it. I love the fact that the community's involved. I was in fire administration for 12 years prior. I never had a single person show up to one of my ESD board meetings. Not a single one. And so to have a community that's interested, I know that it means something to you. And I don't take that lightly. And so this budget, it's built on a ad valorem tax. Now, one of the things the board did, it appears the board did, and y'all correct me if you didn't, it looks like y'all gave a homestead exemption. Okay. So the board provided a homestead exemption. I don't know how you did it, but I know it came out to $54 million worth of evaluation. Okay. I don't know if you did 10,000 a home or 20,000 a home. All right. So we did the same thing. I suggested the exact same thing to our ESD board. I will tell you it's highly symbolic, because we just talked about what that dollars really mean. At 20,000 a home, $20, so that's $16 a year, $1.25 a month roughly, redneck math, and so but it cost the budget $57,000, and so on a budget like this, $57,000, it makes a difference. So my position with the homestead exemptions is, if you're going to do it, just make sure you stay at the highest tax rate. Help your homeowner, show the homeowners that you're trying to do it, but your commercial business also drives your ad valorem. This district also gets sales and use tax. I think the department drove that. The department went out and knocked on doors and explained that, hey, we're going to bring in an extra, $500,000 with sales and use tax. And so what are you doing as a board to take that money and reinvest it in your community? And so this proposal kind of does all that. I think it's a worst case scenario proposal. I've never completely hit a budget, but I want to make sure that I look at all the worst case scenarios. So there's things in here like rehab supplies, several $1,000s. We may not spend that much. And it's just kind of all inclusive. So the proposal that we responded with, because we were solicited to do, is a turnkey proposal. Turns out, I have an individual that works for us full time that has been looking at an administrative position. Just wrapped up his master's degree, been in fire service about 18 years, and just bought 10 acres right here in Devine. And so, thought that was an interesting timing thing. And sometimes folks that know me know that I look at some things spiritually, and I believe I'm here because God put me here, and this is where I'm supposed to be in my community. And so I don't know. Maybe that's a timing thing. Maybe that's just pure coincidence. And so that is this was sent in, I don't know, back in July. Talk about tax rates for a second. Right now, you're at 6.87. I don't know if you should have received your report from the county that talked about what your no new revenue rate is, what your de minimis rate is, and what your voter approval rate is. And so I don't know what those numbers are.
It's just almost where we are now. We
But
just
your
got it
de
yesterday.
minimis rate would be much higher.
We would have to go to the voter for anything over 7%.
So you wouldn't, so you don't actually have to go to the, not completely, and I don't mean to say, but not completely.
Voter approval.
Because in a small taxing, you're not technically a small taxing unit, but because you bring in less than $500,000, your highest rate would be your de minimis rate. And it would strictly be off of a public meeting, or a public forum. So you would not need to go to the voters.
We're just right over 5.
What's that?
We're right over 5 now.
Right over 5.
500,000.
Okay.
Bring it.
Your de minimis rate would bring you, drawing up 1.6 million or 1.1 million?
No,
And which is fine right now. And so, but I think you gotta look at tax rates. Because, yeah, 6.87 gets a little tight at $560,000 of ad valorem. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'd love to take questions. I don't know if y'all, I mean, we can, I don't have a problem responding to anybody. Take questions from the board, and I'm willing to, if y'all are comfortable, I'm willing to have short responses to any community questions that moves us on.
the one thing that I noticed, if you don't mind me asking.
Yes, ma'am.
In your proposal, when I went through it, I noticed that there's a lot of the expenses that the board presently pays for. We pay all the utilities, all the facilities and what have you. And so when I pulled out all of those things, we came up with a different figure.
Right.
But still your rate is almost what we're bringing in now, total.
Right.
Which would make it very difficult for us to, without trimming some of this down.
Like I said, it's a turnkey. This is everything it would take to operate this district. So that's why I included all of it.
But you wouldn't operate our part.
Well, that's up to y'all. This was a discussion with the board. That's up to y'all. That's up to the board. I'm just showing total dollars.
If we didn't hit this budget, then I know we would adjust it for next year based on actual. And then is that funding refunded, or do we just adjust the last quarterly payment?
So your money is always your money. Our district's not in, we're not a for-profit agency, we're not looking, everything would be laid separately. So all expenses paid would be in a separate division within QuickBooks. And so we wouldn't be looking for a flat fee payment. You're gonna see a monthly, some type of monthly or quarterly, whatever's comfortable with y'all.
But we would still pay in advance, right? Or would we pay?
For payroll would probably need to be advanced, just for the first quarterly. For payroll.
Otherwise, it would be a refund or reimbursement for X number of expenses.
Or we would actually bring you the invoices and prepare them all for you and bring checks to the board for you to sign. That would be my preference. I don't prefer to pay it and then ask you to reimburse us. I prefer to prepare the invoices, bring them to you, present the invoices to you for whatever they are, and you sign them based on what's been pre-approved in a budget. And just so, and I think there was a question someone asked me, yes, our folks are all full-time. They have full benefit packages, retirement, health care, paid time off. I mean, our benefits packages are pretty extensive. Give you an idea, we employ currently about 67 personnel. In the 3 years I've been here, we've had 0 turnover. Or 4 years, 3 years since we've had, 3.5 years since we've had full-time personnel, 0 turnover. We've made some decisions on some folks, but folks won't want to leave us, it's been 0.
So this number here, it's all in.
I'm sorry, what's that?
This number here, that's all in.
I think that's all in. This is based off of what I know it costs to run a fire department and worst case scenario. So that's an all in. That's not me asking you to pay us that number. That's me telling you that's what I think at the end of the year that it would cost you to run a fire department.
That's what we would pay.
Yes.
One
Yes,
way or another.
Plus or minus.
Absolutely. Yeah, the only payment would come directly to us would be the cost of personnel. All other payments, unless you wanted to do it different, I just think it's cleaner for you to write your own checks. We would prepare them. Yeah.
So given that this budget proposed here would take up pretty much all of our budget, is there an alternative, anything that can be possibly dropped off of here? I mean, we still got, trucks that we need to bring up to speed. We have, other things. What if something breaks down, we have nothing left in the budget?
I mean,
Be cut.
So the main cost is the personnel cost, and I don't know how you.
That's this year.
You're providing 2 people a day. I don't know. It is an expensive business to operate. I acknowledge that. My suggestion to you would be, you take your de minimis rate and increase your revenue if this is the service you want to provide.
So realistically, the personnel costs a similar amount, whether they come through ESD1 or the VFD.
It's going to be in the ballpark similar. I mean, I'm not going to tell you. Yes, we obviously we pay more. We have benefits, but we're not talking. I mean, it's probably within 200,000 if I had to get all in. The other thing, one of the benefits we have is the fact that we do have a large pool of personnel. We provide a very similar service out in ESD6 for Honda. Just this week, one of our firefighters got sick on shift. That position's refilled within an hour because there's a significant pool of personnel to pull from. So never have to worry about whether the truck is truly going to be staffed or not.
It's nice that you have a deep bench, but also if we do have people who have been working for VFD who are highly qualified, would they be able to cross over?
So we will enter, obviously if this was to be sought after, we're going to look to recruit the most qualified personnel, absolutely. If they're the most qualified personnel, they're going to be given an opportunity. We went through a similar thing when it came to our Allegiance mobile health staff. We had some folks that have been with Allegiance, but they've been committed to our district and committed to our community, and we brought about 80% of those over. They would absolutely, if this goes through, we got to hire a lot of folks. I'm in a situation between this, something else we're working on, and a potential grant that we could hire anywhere from 6 to 41 people by the end of the year. So we would absolutely look for folks.
Go ahead. Well, I guess I was thinking,
Yeah.
as far as trimming the budget down, we would be making decisions throughout the year about what to pay for and what not to. So to some extent, that ball is still in our...
The ball's, well, to 100% the ball's in your court, right? Generally how we operate is if it's, would want to really go over the budget in detail with you, and once it's approved in a budget, we don't generally want to be looking for 30, 45 days to move through with something that's already been approved in a budget that's $2,000, right? But yeah, anything outside the budget, 100%.
So you're talking about possibly entertaining, if we were to go and accept this proposal, how are you going, we talked early on about how important volunteers are. How are you going to, so we can recognize that this community is based off of volunteers. So we're very proud about that verbiage and that history behind that. How do you incorporate or intertwine the volunteers into keeping them focused and on point in this process?
So I don't think it's any different. We don't look at, so our expectations are our expectations, because the way we respond to incidents is the way we respond to incidents. I still have 22 volunteers over in ESD1. We still do recruit volunteer classes once every 6 months. Our goal is to recruit volunteers. I find a whole lot of value in volunteers. The folks that just want to do this for the love of their community is usually much less of a headache for me than the folks that collect a check. Now, our folks that are full-time obviously do a great job for us, but you can't replace the passion of wanting to serve your community. This is a fun job. It can be really fun. And so being able to serve as a volunteer, I will always recruit volunteers as long as they continue to show up. I believe strongly in it.
So in this proposal, that covers maintenance for the fire trucks, covers our IT,
Yep.
radios, the whole 9 yards. Do you, personnel, someone to take care of the personnel?
Sure.
You have a whole department,
We have a personnel department.
and that's all included in that. So I think one of the things that was wanted to be asked, how is this going to be different than what we have right now versus, like, as we got paid firefighters on staff now, 2 firefighters in theory are going to be here. They run out on the truck, and right now the volunteer pool is very small.
Right.
So you still got 2 volunteers going out, calling for backup, and other departments have to come in and back them up. How will that change? I mean, trying to get those volunteers is what we're looking at. So, we're paying a lot of extra money. We're getting a lot of stuff for it. I get it. I get it. But how is it going to make for more firefighters to be on scene?
On day one, I don't think it does. That's the honest answer. And to say that the community, so the cost, I don't know exactly how much the current 501c3 spends each year. I can't imagine it's that much different. The difference is they're doing a significant amount of fundraising. They're looking to donors to help supplement the cost. And not always, and then, there's some other stuff that's going on, like, and again, we have a great relationship, right?
Yeah.
This is, stuff like the code enforcement where, the VFDs being paid. That's not the mission of a fire department. But they're having to do it because they're trying to supplement the funding to provide service, right? So they're doing everything they can to supplement. That's my point of the extra $3, $4 a month, where all that extra fundraising, I'm personally not a fan of a government agency that fundraises. It just doesn't sit that good with me of a government agency that fundraises, because that doesn't balance the cost across the whole community that's going to reap the benefits. And so, I think the cost is very similar. It's just more directly going to come directly from the ESD versus a few community members that supplement it and some odd stuff they do to generate revenue. From a volunteer standpoint, that'll be up to the community and the volunteers that want to get involved. There'll definitely be a spot for them. But trace history across the U.S., volunteerism's down. It's pretty tough. If a fire station has 6 to 10 truly active volunteers, that's a lot. Plenty of departments that'll tell you they got 35 on the roster. And the moment they have an event like this, all 35 show up. The moment there's something that's controversial, all 35 show up. But at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's the same 2 or 3. And so if people aren't honest with themselves on that, they're just not paying attention.
So last meeting we discussed, you spoke a little bit and talked about battalion chief.
Yes, sir.
And this budget here, I assume includes that?
Yes, sir.
In the back?
But if we were to partner with 4, could this dollar amount change some?
That is the dollar amount partnering with 4.
That is the dollar amount partnering.
Remember, I mentioned that this, I do not think you have the funding to do it on your own.
Yeah.
That I don't believe. You'd have to really max out, and I don't even know that you can max out your rate, depending on, I have to see the form. I don't believe you have the funding to do it on your own.
I think what's difficult for us is that I don't know that we've really seen this detailed of numbers in one place.
Yeah.
The whole year that I've been on the board, it's kind of been something that we've been asking for, so
Yeah.
I guess it's demystified a little bit, but also overwhelming.
Yeah, fair enough. It's this is, I believe, every line item it takes to run a fire department. Not saying every dollar gets spent, and for me, I'm a very large advocate of, there's no such thing as, last month of the year, and hey, we still hadn't spent all of our money, so we want to go buy this. To me, that's irresponsible, because all the money is still yours. It's still the community's. That's very common in government. Does not make sense in ESDs because the money doesn't go anywhere. It's still yours. You should be investing it.
Just, we go along with this budget, what happens with the volunteer fire department? The volunteer fire department?
So my goal would be nothing. They just they no longer receive funding. They now operate up under this standard operating guidelines. My goal is I would hope that the volunteers would give us a shot and stay on board with us and want to, and to be clear, I believe this department has a pretty high standard. I get that there were some distractions that took place that caused not only this board as well as the community to lose trust. But overall, when it came to response and the standard of this fire department, I believe it was pretty high. And so I don't think that would be a drastic change. I know most of them. I mean, we talk a lot. I come to any of the major scenes I'm generally at. My goal is they would still stay in place. The contract would be rewritten to where they no longer receive a direct supplement. All the funds paid directly by the ESD, as defined by them. And again, this is a proposal based on, I haven't really dug into your organization, but I know what it costs to operate. So it's like maintenance, I'm not sure what condition your apparatus is in. But my goal would be that the volunteer fire department would remain. And we would bring in and we would assist and just try to build them up. They got a lot of young folks that are just eager and energetic. So
Ultimately, it's up to them whether or not.
right, sure. And their standards, but I think their standards are pretty similar to ours. I really do. I just believe there's a little bit of there's a difference in just experience levels and maybe some knowledge here and there, but a little bit difference in experience levels.
So I'm just going, are your standards in this proposal here? Or do you have another pamphlet for your standards?
So, I mean, we have, my policies and guidelines are not in there.
Okay.
But how we operate, I mean, not all of it's defined, specifically written, but they're well communicated.
Anybody else have anything?
I had another question and I lost my thought.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm thinking.
You mind if we take any questions?
I don't have limit it. We just need to eliminate it.
I mean, we can limit it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty decent with that.
I was dying to use my stopwatch earlier.
I don't think there needs to be one. I'll just.
Yeah.
All right, so.
I think we need to.
So my goal would be to, if anyone does have any questions, just if we get off. Yeah.
Questions for Chief?
Yeah, so,
To 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
yeah, because they can't
Questions and
respond.
discussion.
But yeah, if you want to ask me a question, I will respond. And there may be a point where I say, hey, we can't solve that right now. But I'd love to take any question. Mr. Edwards?
David Ellinger
Yes, sir.
again. Thank you for allowing me board. And it's directly for Mr. Cook. On your volunteer side discussion and your standard operating procedures of training and requirements for responding to any and all fires within a 30-day window, what does that look like?
So it's, training is, and I'd have to pull up, but I believe they have to have a minimum of 12 hours quarterly of training. The bare minimum is 12 hours quarterly. So what's
We're
that?
talking just the volunteers?
Yeah, just volunteers. Our career staff has a much higher turn. And it could be 20, but it's not, it's an obtainable number. And the way we have our volunteer participation written is there's 2 ways they can participate. They can ride shifts. And by riding shifts, they can respond to, or they can ride at least 48 hours. Let me confirm whether it's 48 hours. I just don't remember if it's monthly or quarterly. I think it's monthly. Or they can respond to a majority of the district's calls. I have it written as a majority of the district's calls because I'm a rule follower. When I write something down, it will be followed. And so if we write down 50%, we're going to follow 50%. And so some of my staff was like, how do we really enforce a majority, we know who's participating, we know who's involved and we know who's not. And that's how we deal with it.
So, I thank you for answering that matter. The reason I asked the question is there's discussion out in the communities that they're doing a minimum of 40 hours a month in training and doing 25% minimum in response to all fire calls. So that, you know,
Who's they? When you say they are doing that, who is they? I'm sorry.
This is all the volunteer side.
But who?
And some of that discussion in the community is saying,
Mr. Elledge, I mean, stop. When you say they are doing that, are you referring to my organization or are you referring to
yes,
the?
your organization under the leadership of your organization.
Are you referring to ESD1?
Excuse me?
You're referring to ESD1?
I'm referring to your organization,
Okay, that's incorrect.
ESD1. Yes, they. The information that I receive in the street is 40 hours a month and 25% of response calls. And I know that's hard to manage that. I'm just asking the question to you, how true is that?
100%
And I want you to be transparent to all of us.
100% false.
Excuse me?
100% false.
Okay, then make it true. Tell me what is really happening.
I just told you what our standard was.
I understand that. You're saying that part of the understanding of the community discussion is not true, but what's on your policies and procedures for the training requirement? You said somewhere around 12, and then you said 48, thereabout.
Right.
And so I just want to know what the real rules of that is, and that's all I'm asking.
We're coming up to 3 minutes.
Yeah. I'm not sure where you're going with that, but your information, I can tell you, is false. That, by far. We don't have a percentage. 100% don't have a percentage. 40 hours a month of training would be astronomical. So definitely not true. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you heard or where, but incorrect.
Well, that's irrelevant. I'm just saying that's what I hear.
But again, fair enough. And we do have to move forward.
I'll wait for you.
Okay. The point. So we do have to move forward. I'm not sure what you're getting at.
I want to know what your requirements are for the volunteer. Now, the volunteer is given daytime, nighttime, it doesn't matter. But the responses on fire calls, what's the volunteer requirement? And I asked that plainly.
Do you want to answer that?
It's the majority of the district's response if they are a responder that responds from their community. We have very few that respond from the house. Most of ours are all ride shifts.
Okay, so.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right,
Okay.
next question.
Next question.
Thank you.
Can we ask questions if you didn't sign up?
Yeah.
Okay, several times you've mentioned something called a Demetrius rate.
De minimis rate.
De minimis, okay. My apologies. Our rate now is like you said, 6.8 cents on the 100.
Yes, sir.
What is that rate that you speak of, and is it different than this?
It is. So the de minimis rate is the max amount this board can adopt.
And what is that rate?
I'd have to find out. So it's...
Well, it can't be over 10.
So your de minimis rate may be listed as over 10, but the de minimis rate is figured to obtain $500,000 more than the district currently receives. That's what creates the de minimis rate.
1326.
Is that what it is for here?
And
So their de minimis rate is 13.26. So that would be the de minimis rate. You can't do that because it's 10.
yes.
There you go.
But you're asking, what you're saying in this rate is it's going to be more than this. It's going to be more than the 6.8.
It potentially should, yes, sir.
Okay, but that's required based on the budget that you send.
The likelihood, yes.
If we
Okay,
adopt
that's all I have.
Yeah,
Because I hear this and I know, all right, what I'm trying to get at is, this is not that rate, and the rate you're asking for is not this rate.
Yeah, they haven't adopted a rate yet. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I have not specifically asking for a rate yet, but I'm telling you, I think that 3 cents or $3 more a month to obtain a different level of service is usually not.
I'm sure most of us could agree with that, but the question is, what is that rate and what will eventually it be? Because some of us have $100,000 home, some of us have $300,000 home, and it's going to affect us in the end. When you say $3 or $4, that's not for everyone.
I would tell you the max by law 10 cents. That is the max. What other questions?
Can I see your packet just for your line items?
What's that? I can't.
Can I see the packages for the line items?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said that your volunteers receive no funding at all, right? How are they, how do I explain this? How are they getting supportive services from you? The volunteer side?
Right.
Because
So yeah, we don't pay our volunteers.
Yeah, but
They're
like,
volunteers.
Are they?
They get their certifications. So
Okay.
we don't charge for any classes. We send them to training. They get, so every one of our volunteers gets their fire commission. And if they choose to want to go to EMT school, we fund them to go to EMT school. They're never asked to cover any cost of any of it.
Okay.
And that's usually been the biggest incentive.
Any other questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so since obviously we don't see the numbers you're looking at, I'm gonna ask for the number that ESD1 came up with for payroll. Is it close to what the existing payroll is, or exponentially more?
It's very difficult for us to say.
Yeah, we'll have
Okay, so I'll just say, I took somehow I ended up with the expenses for April and May from that one meeting, I think a month or two ago. So I went down and pulled out all the payroll and did, magic math. And it could be, a little off. But from what I'm seeing, currently, our payroll for the fire department is about approximately $275,000 for a year. Now, I get it, ESD hasn't been paying that all along, but you are supplementing it now in the last few months of the contract, or adding on, I should say. And this number is not including insurance, it is not including workers' comp, or any of those other things that go into a payroll expense. So that's why I was asking, is current payroll close to what ESD has given you?
We'll have to look at
That's
this.
part of it.
That's what,
Okay.
that's like, that question next month will be perfect.
Okay,
Answer
cool
that
beans.
question then.
Okay.
The thing is that we probably have been paying a lot of payroll, but we haven't been able to upkeep a lot of our equipment that we normally would. So it looks like we've spent less, but we haven't been getting everything for that less.
I understand. My other question, I'm sorry, I came loaded
Yeah,
tonight.
you're good.
For the ESD1 contract, and does that include the monthly maintenance on our trucks and whatever it takes to fix them?
So what I proposed to them was what I thought it would cost to run this turnkey.
So it will
Everything.
include our monthly and all of that? I mean, I know you don't know when something goes
Right.
kaboom. I mean, that everybody knows
Sure.
from experience, but will the fire department run calls with EMS?
So the short answer to that is yes. The longer answer to that is that has to be better. We don't, so my current fire engines do not chase every medical call.
Okay.
We do go to high priority calls, and I think that's important, and we do go to calls when the closest ambulance is not available. But just to respond to every medical call, we do not do that.
Because currently they're running at anywhere from 78 to 82%,
Right.
our medical calls.
That's pretty standard. That's pretty standard within the industry, but yeah, we don't, we prioritize which EMS calls we respond to. Not if the ambulance is gonna beat us, we don't go.
Gotcha.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Good question. Any
Anybody
other
else?
questions?
Okay.
I remember my.
Perfect.
Oh, we remember.
I remember, finally.
3 minutes?
Couple.
You forgot now.
Couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
First one, battalion chief. How we, so the community can understand a little more, because we have more people there tonight than we had last month, so.
Yes, sir.
We brought that to the table of this budget incurs the fact that both ESD 2 and 4 work together to hire a chief.
Yes, sir.
Can you go explain a little bit of that?
So right now you have a fire chief that is responsible for your district, Chief Martinez. So this individual would effectively become your area fire chief, just fire chief won't be the right term because they won't be the fire chief, they'll be a division chief or battalion chief. They'll have the responsibility of the operations and the personnel within this division. So that would be the personnel assigned to this station and the personnel assigned to the EMS.
Now, I mentioned that when we
And they would respond to emergencies.
Okay. And they would report at each meeting, they'd go to 4 and they would give them answer questions, go through whatever they needed for 4, and then they would come back over with us at 2 and any questions and answer whatever needed to be handled.
Yes.
Along with that, you have the administrative side of that. I know that's part of this.
There's something in there for I think it's important to have some form of administrative help. There's going to be a lot going on. Someone's got to prepare your invoices. Someone's got to do that. That can be a full-time position. It could probably be a 3-day-a-week position, just given the limited number. But yeah, that's in there also.
Would that individual be solely for 2, or would that work 2 and 4?
That's a discussion that would have to be
a discussion.
That would have to be made.
Would we have them here local here at the office?
Yes.
This facility? One of the facilities?
Yes.
Possibly?
Yes.
Okay. That was the questions that I had.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I wonder, what is the split? Is it a 50-50 split? Are they here 50% of the time we pay 50%? Are they here 75% of the time we're paying 75%?
So that's another discussion that would need to take place between the two boards.
But as budgeted, it's a 50-50?
As budgeted, I think it's a little bit more on the, I have to confirm, because there's some discussion with 4. So generally paramedics make more. And so paying for that paramedic knowledge and incentive is usually higher. And so, but I'd have to look. It's close, somewhere right in there. It's hard to say. It could either be 40-60 or 55-45 or something like that.
Okay.
I know, I appreciate you bringing this proposal. I think for us, I know it was a sticker shock. There's not deny that, but a few months ago we discussed about a hard reset, and based off of that discussion back then, I think we're looking at that because of the fact of the confidence level of what we've had in the past. And of course there's been a lot of things that have happened over the last year that has affected this community and this firehouse. And with this definitely is probably more than we've seen, as far as what it's going to take to get us moving in the right direction. So I appreciate that.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah. And thank y'all. And if you have any questions, call me. I'll leave you my card. I'll answer any question. My goal is to be completely transparent. And I have no doubt there will be plenty of rumors that fly. Right. I can tell you that it's just the nature of it. So in our business, there's 2 things that, and I think in life, there's 2 things that each of you dislike. It's the way it is and change. Right.
Right.
And so anytime you start looking at, we want to, I've got a little thing that hangs in my office. It's a picture. It's a guy at a podium that says, "Who wants to see change?" And everybody in the room raised their hand. And the next picture said, "Who wants to personally change?" Well, no, I want him to change. I don't want to change, right? So there's always that. And so I love the transparency of it. I want to answer any questions. There's nothing that's hidden. There's nothing that's a surprise. My board, I couldn't tell you the last time we went into an executive session. We just want the community to know what's going on. And so that's just the way I operate. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to call me. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Before it starts getting late and anybody starts to leave, I just wanted to say personally, thank you all so much for coming, and thank you, KK, for making sure that this was publicized so that folks would know about it. We really appreciate it. We held the meeting up closer to our next meeting so that we would have time to make sure that this date and time was in the paper and that people would be able to make it. So I know it's going to start getting later and people might start trickling out, but just wanted to say thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you being here.
Okay, the next, Devine Volunteer Fire Department. John,
Thank you all for having me. My name is Eric Quintanilla. I was born and raised in Hondo, Texas. Graduated high school in Hondo, served in the military, went into business afterwards. I spent almost 20 years in a financial services agency. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration. I was 3 hours away from completing my master's degree, except that our firm was moving their operations from Manhattan to Nashville. And I was splitting time between the 3 cities, so the master's degree didn't happen. I've had 2 weeks to really try to unpack a lot of things. There are a lot of things that I saw where things could very much be improved, right? I had a PowerPoint presentation, however, if y'all can't see it, if y'all see it, vice versa. So I'm going to try to remember these slides going through. The first thing, we inherited a lot. We inherited an academy. We inherited a code compliance contract. So the first slide was actually an org chart. In the past, the academy and the code compliance contract rolled up through the fire chief. We changed that. Everything should go through the board of directors. That is one thing that we're going to assure everyone, that any decisions made to add, amend, or anything that outside of fire operations gets vetted by the board of directors, approved or denied, whatever the case is. I prepared 3 budgets. There's just so much going on. We're trying to do, in the spirit of the hard reset, we're gonna ask for what we really want, and then we're gonna pay for what we can work with. The only differences in this budget than last year's budget is the paid staff. We did not budget for paid staff last year. I think we operated under a $320,000 budget, and then we asked for an additional $85,000. So on all 3 proposals, if you remove the paid staff, we're sitting at $297,000. So with pure volunteer staff, we could probably operate with a $350,000 budget for next year. And that's using actuals that were extrapolated from a data dump out of QuickBooks. One of the reasons it's been so difficult for us to report accurately is because our chart of accounts were all over the place. We have started to make efforts to clean those chart of accounts up. There is a chart of accounts for ESD funds. There will be a chart of accounts for academy funds, and there will be a chart of accounts for code compliance funds. So when you have that jumbled chart of accounts, it's hard to really determine what came into one entity, what came out of that entity. That was something that I can't explain how it happened, when it happened. I can only say that going forward, that is going to be cleaned up. And actually one of my slides was the ESD chart of accounts that breaks everything down. If it says apparatus, under that is maintenance, it's, everything else underneath that. That's always subject to change. If the ESD wants to say, hey, add this under apparatus, bam, there it is. It's clear as day. QuickBooks, for those who use it, is a very good tool. Sometimes it can be complex. I know my business, my chart of accounts are very different than other people's chart of accounts. It's what that person that's using it can get out of it, right? But we're going to try to clean that up in a way that if there is transition or succession, that it's very clear on how that goes. So, back to the budget. These line items, again, were based on actuals that were extrapolated out of QuickBooks through a spreadsheet. I went through there manually and grouped them. So there is currently a variance, right? If we ask the ESD to cover full paid staff, that includes a chief, an assistant chief, and an admin, plus 2 firefighters per shift, and backfilling for those 2 firefighters full-time, we're looking at operating around $735,900. That is the worst case scenario. If that is something that the ESD cannot afford, we have flexibility. And the other thing to consider, as a 501c3, a lot of these expenses that we have on here that we budgeted max for, we can apply for grants. We have a wonderful grant writer that has been very successful in the past in helping obtain grants. The other thing is yes, sponsorship. We are a 501c3. We will rely, hopefully, on donations, and that can offset some of the expenditures. Now, the real change is that instead of exhausting our budget, we're hoping to take that ESD surplus and move it into an account, an interest-bearing account, and build up a war chest, and hopefully be able to make unexpected large purchases if something happens. What that does is we don't have to go back to the ESD mid-year and say, hey, we need $50,000 because something happened to one of the apparatus. If we can build that, and we can continually build that, then that's always in reserve. For those that know what an apparatus costs, you don't want that at last minute. You really want to have some money saved up for that. And we can do that if we run our budget the way we have planned. The other options that we have to operate the fire department is a full-time chief and part-time assistant chief, part-time admin. If you look at the second page, there's a shift stipend and per call stipend. This is something that we're playing with for our volunteers. How do we incentivize volunteers to actually come and train, attend truck night? That's in the event that we go full volunteer, right? At maximum, this would cost us $140,000, and if you want to break down the details, Mr. Bowers actually has the details broken down. And this is not set in stone. This can be played with, right? Could we decrease it? What are our volunteers, willing to take? And they also, with, any academies, and even if the academies did not exist, there's the certification also incentive. There's experience incentive. There's a lot of things that we want to incentivize our volunteers with if we go to a full volunteer model. We want to build a quality fire department, whether it's a paid fire department, and if it's a volunteer fire department, we especially want to be able to maximize participation. A lot of these things cannot happen overnight. The stipend, we're asking the ESD to fund. Again, it's not set in stone. We can play with those numbers. If we did a full-time chief with part-time command staff, well, actually this is part-time command staff. Sorry, I'm trying to. Full-time chief and command staff with the stipend, that is a $618,000 budget. And again, these numbers can be played with in the event that, I want to point out, we have the fire chief at 75. A good quality fire chief in rural Texas will run about 80 to 85,000 minimum. So this is the low end. And this is, our budget on the low end. Assistant chief can be part-time. Assistant chief can be volunteer. Those details we can certainly work through. Office staff. That was a huge point earlier. Do we do part-time? Do we do full-time? Do we outsource? Can we reduce some of the budget in that way? I think that's some of the flexibility that we can provide, other than grants and sponsorships. Our lowest proposal, and this isn't even the lowest, is just part-time command staff. And then per call and per shift stipend for the volunteers. We're looking at $528,000 per year. The differences are not that great between full-time staff with paid firefighters or full-time command staff with a per call, per shift stipend for volunteers, and part-time command staff with a per call and per shift stipend for volunteers. So some of the goals that we have set for ourselves really is we have to clean up our reporting process. That is one of the primary goals that we're going to do so that we can provide the reporting that is required per contract. The first thing I did when I became the president of the board was read the contract, and there is nothing there that's unreasonable unless it's hard to pull from your database, right? So along with the hard reset in how the fire operations work, we're hoping that we can also have a hard line drawn and saying, gosh, we can still try to get this stuff from the past, but I trust that going forward, everything is going to be clean, and you'll be able to provide things at a moment's notice. Now, we really want to keep this fire department intact. This department has a great legacy. It's rooted in the community. We're trying to build excitement about this fire department again. There are things that we cannot change. And I think the thing that caused the most harm was that the board, and I'm part of the board, stopped managing the fire department. It is our intent to fully manage the department. It is our intent to do our due diligence and be vigilant. Finances, before we even meet with the ESD, Mr. Salas, regular audits with our treasurer. Financials approved. I think once we clean up our chart of accounts, halfway there, things will be more transparent than they have ever been. What can we do going further? Be transparent to the community. We can publish our financials on the website. As long as there's no PII that we can worry about, we'll publish our financials. You'll know. These meetings are great. Come in and ask questions. Hey, this number doesn't make sense. As a department, we're looking at some increases here. Those are questions that I've asked. Insurance increased significantly over last year. That is something that we cannot really control. And that has receipts, right? We have insurance premium receipts to justify those increases. House Bill 198 is a bill that they want firefighters to take cancer screening tests. Those cost about $1,000 per, right? We added it here. That's something that we're asking the ESD to fund as well for the time being. We're resetting this as if DVFD has no revenue sources. And if you really look at things, the true revenue source that we have is the lease. We're going to be very vigilant on grants. Those are restricted funds. We need to ensure that everybody understands those are restricted funds. We cannot pull from that, borrow from that to pay Paul or pay Peter. We cannot do that. So those are things that we, as a board, have now recognized as failures in the past that need to start to happen. It is very difficult to act. This is a lot of money. Even at our lowest point, it's $528,000. What is the advantage of having a per call and per shift stipend at $140,000 a year? The way we figured it, we could probably have 3 on staff, on station, 365 days a year, 24/7, and that's what it costs us, $140 just to pay a per shift and per call. So let's say, for example, I take a day shift at $30 per shift at 12 hours, and then I get a call. Now I get that on call. That's a good incentive for volunteers to come in. That's a good incentive for volunteers to come train. That's a good incentive to build a great community again. Look, I'm sorry that you guys, we'll try to get some of these budgets out to you guys so you can see them, but these are based on our actuals with a variance from last year. And the only increase in the budget that we're asking for is in some way pay for the stipend or pay for the staff. And of course, the House Bill 98 that recently came across.
So I do want to, if I may.
Yes.
I do want to mention that while we are a 501c3 and we do have those other sources of revenue, I know that one of the big concerns was the code enforcement. Code enforcement will now, even though it will be contracted to the 501c3, we are not associating the fire department with it at all. It is going to be used by a city vehicle. They will be in city attire, and there will be no markings of the actual fire department itself.
So there's no representation at all of the fire department?
There will be no representation of the actual fire department itself.
Unfortunately, we probably should have done that a long time ago.
But
I agree.
But it would still be a firefighter actually doing it? A paid staff
So-
member?
Paid through code enforcement.
100%?
100% through code enforcement. It would not be one of the on-duty staff members.
It's not like it is, it has been.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yes.
So they would generate $110.
We're going to call some questions if I get to that.
Yes.
So we'll still have paid firefighters
Yes.
on staff.
The 2 paid members on staff, any code enforcement that is done is going to be paid through code enforcement on code enforcement time.
And so
Not
our
by-
firefighters are 100% firefighters?
100%
And that person, we
firefighters.
don't even,
That is somebody who is certified on this end. As well as the medical calls, we've been doing some research while we too agree that we don't need to be going to every single medical call. Right now, the current limitations that we have is that we don't have emergency medical dispatchers who answer the phone to dispatch the calls. So there's no way for us to know whether it is a high priority call or a low priority call. The only thing that we can do is use our best judgment. We're working out with, because it not only puts liability on the ESD, on the department, but it also puts liability on the medical director that signs off on us. So we are working with the medical director right now to bring you options for the ESD meeting next week on some sort of grounding that says, okay, not going to every single run. However, we go to high priority calls, right? The cardiac arrests, the chest pains, the difficulty breathings, lift assist where you need extra hands and manpower, or whenever high trauma calls and when EMS requests you, right? So we're working with our medical director to what she says will be acceptable, because at the end of the day, it is on her license as well, what calls we take and we don't. We want to take as much liability off of the ESD as we can. So we're trying to create a plan, and we should have that to you guys by next week.
What is the medical director on here for that we are putting under the budget? What is that? Have we been paying for that?
I'm sorry?
Have we been paying for that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The medical director is the reason that we can practice medicine in the state of Texas, because we practice under the medical director's license.
Okay, so we're just paying the state?
No, the medical director is a doctor specifically. They write the protocols. This one specifically writes the protocols for us, provides any QA, QI for reports. If there's anything that needs to be fixed or any reprimanding or anything, it comes directly from that person. They will come in and do trainings for us, make sure that all of our members are credentialed up to standard, because at the end of the day, we're all under her
Is that part of the
license.
county, or is that just somebody?
No, that's an independent contract, yes. Good.
No, I'm good. We can open it up for questions if you like.
Questions? Anybody on the board?
Yeah, I think we probably have some questions before we turn it over to the community.
I don't right now.
Wow.
I usually give him time to think.
I took a master class over the weekend on QuickBooks and learned how to make a proper chart of accounts. So I
Good job.
hope that it looks decent enough for you guys.
Good. So we're talking about volunteers. We know that volunteers are crucial and important.
Yes.
We've asked this question before, and I'll continue to ask it again. Eric, great job. I know you took this on a few weeks ago, so anybody that's asking questions, Eric, don't be too hard on him, because he just took on this role of president, so give him a little bit of a break. But part of our problem is that we've lost a lot of volunteers.
Yes, sir.
You know, how is it by going with the current volunteer fire department or paid fire staff How are we going to incorporate bringing back those volunteers? How do you change the mentality in this community? And this is not personal, this is business. You're part of what was existing previously.
Yes, sir.
Y'all were, both of you were in that line. I don't mean to put that on you, but the community is here, they know it.
Yes, sir.
How do you change that? How do you change that mentality and bring those volunteers back to this firehouse? Chief?
I definitely took it off of myself. My board is doing a fantastic job in that they took that off of me, and we're incorporating that in the bylaws.
I understand
So
that, but you're still the chief.
Yes, sir.
You're still the chief. You're the one that is, the board is not going to be out there here handling, making sure training's being done, handling the maintenance of equipment, all of that stuff. That's on you. You're
Yes,
the
sir.
leader. It starts with you. How do we get, and I'm assuming that we have some volunteers here that may or may not still be part of this firehouse.
Yes, sir.
How do we get them back? How do we change their mentality that they are confident in the leadership that we have currently that's going to get us moving forward?
And prove that to them.
Okay?
The constant communication. Because I feel like that's what breaks in the chain first. As soon as the communication breaks, then there's differences, or now I've spent too much time away. But I've been reaching out to a lot of our volunteers, a lot of us have. Just, hey, what's going on? Because it goes in waves, and we've seen it time and time again. Some drop off, then we don't have enough beds, so people start sleeping on the couches, and we have full houses, and then we don't.
Right.
And so that's what I've been doing so far. I know that in lieu of everything that is unknown,
Sure.
We have had some drop off because it's just the fear of the unknown. But I'm literally just out here trying my best. I'm making phone calls, I'm sending messages, I'm physically going and meeting people for lunch just to see if there are things that we can fix, things that need to be addressed, or if it's a personal problem that is just happening at home that they might need help with. If I can help, I'll try, but at the end of the day, that's all I can really do.
Yeah. I get it. And don't get me wrong, those are here, change is inevitable. We have to change to move forward with the times. It's what it's all about.
Yes, sir.
I think that we're in a situation right now that as much as I have said a hard reset, we're in a situation where, I appreciate the 3 budgets, the 3 proposals. I don't know how we go back to strictly volunteers with how this house is in
Not many volunteers right now.
Sorry?
Without many volunteers
Without
right
any
now.
volunteers. And so, because of the things that have gone on over the last several months and this past year, that's why we're here tonight.
Yes, sir.
We want the best for this community. I've talked to several people that are here tonight that, they want the best qualified individual that when they show up and they've got a fire, that they're going to be able to perform that job and do it at the best of their ability and not hand it off to another house that shows up that's there to assist. I think that's a concern as well.
Yes, sir.
So, I've asked some questions.
If I may, from a business perspective, we can't really fix a problem if we don't know what the problem is. Define the problem. I'd like to talk to those that left. Was it family? Was it the way things were being run? Because a lot of things, are going to change. Now, some things can change, some things can't. But we really kind of need to figure things out.
I believe that all of us here on the board can answer that question. The fact that it was the leadership that was here that was running this firehouse is why they left.
Yeah.
And how it was being operated and how it was being handled. Some to the point of being bullied out.
Yeah.
And that's not my words, that's their words. Please understand that.
Oh, absolutely. That's something that really should not be tolerated.
No.
But that's really the difference between the new model and the old model. In the old model, the board was not in charge. Nothing went through the board. There's bylaws for a reason. They have to be adhered to. They can be amended. for the best, you know, as long as it's best for the department, for the personnel. But I think that in general, many of the problems that we faced as a department was that the board was no longer managing the department. Final decisions really should be at least consulted through the board, right? Even if we don't have the ultimate say. I think that one person making a final decision without a protocol. For example, where I used to work, you know, if you put something on someone on written, you had to talk to somebody first. This is why. You know, am I being petty? Is this a good reason? Sure. Right? Then you get a second warning, etc. So it's never one person, one manager making a personnel decision on anyone. It's always a group thought, right? A lot of times we have to consider if you allow that one person to be 100% in charge, emotions will take over and not logic. That's why you want multiple eyes on anything. So we are hoping to change. Per our request, or per your request for our requirement, we've posted the position of chief.
It's open now?
It's open now.
Where did you post that?
TCFP.
I didn't see that today.
Where's it posted?
TCFP.
TCFP.
Do you have
Okay.
a full board now? Do you have a full board? I know you've been short board members.
We do. We have everyone on the board that's filled.
Okay. So there's 5 on your board, right?
Yes. There may be one. There may be one. Is Ethan's
Vice
status?
President.
Ethan has not resigned yet,
Okay.
but we expect him to because he's going on to college.
Yeah.
Pre-med.
So there's 6 on the board, and we may be short ones shortly, but we'll fill that position.
Is your board normally a 6-member board or a 5-member board?
6.
A 6.
6, okay. So you've been really short then at times.
I do want to say, however this shakes out, we appreciate the documents and everything, and I also want to say, like, you're a brand new face to have in front of us, and it's great. We've also been asking for so much for like a whole entire year, the whole time that I've been on the board, and that's kind of what I'm grappling with. I'm not grappling with you as much as I'm grappling with the last 12 months.
I fully understand. Just take it at my word. When I read that contract, I said, this is actually less than common, right? There's a lot less there than I used to report to the SEC on a monthly, quarterly basis.
The other thing I'm grappling with is there's a really big difference between these numbers and the other numbers, a fairly large difference. And we've had a hard time getting the numbers right with the VFD and that I know goes back longer than my year on the board. And so that's another thing I grapple with a little bit too.
Sure.
So
it matters very much which numbers are accurate.
yes, ma'am. So
But
that's. Go ahead.
You would not be providing any benefits for your...
Right now, we do not. We just can't afford it. But that's one of the reasons that there is backfill on there is because we do provide training. If our guys see a training that they want to go to and it is feasible for us to send them to that training, we're not going to spend the entire training budget on one class. But if it is feasible to send them to training, that's one of the benefits about working here, is that we do send them to trainings. The only true benefits that they get is their sick time, their PTO, and then their backfill for whenever they get sent out to trainings. But they want to be here. I know that the pay isn't great. I know for a fact that the pay isn't great. But to have our members specifically get headhunted, and I'm not looking at anyone specific, Chief Cook is still in the room, but to have our people headhunted because they operate to a certain standard and call me upset because they feel like a traitor for leaving, and I'm just like, are you kidding? You can get benefits, go away. I truly love that we have a really good culture here. And we're training really good people. And that's the most benefit I can give them right now.
Do we have a bookkeeper on staff?
We currently do not have a full-time bookkeeper on staff.
Okay.
She was hired by the city of Devine, so right now she is on.
She's part-time. She's on a stipend. She
Can
just
she
keeps
do
the
both?
books. Yes, she has been.
She should not be allowed to do by law.
It seems like
She can work for the fire
Is there
department and the
conflict?
city.
I feel like it might be a conflict.
Yeah.
You better check and verify that.
I will.
Might be a conflict.
I don't believe that she could be part of two government entities.
Okay, I can look into that.
I know,
That's
I
on the
face
right.
the same thing when I.
They can't.
They can't. Yeah, so.
We can't either.
Right.
One of the questions I have is, in two of the proposals, it has shift stipend and per call stipend.
Yes.
And that's a great incentive for volunteers. And I think that's awesome. I think I'm 100% on that. I don't see it on the proposal for the paid firefighters. It doesn't show anything for stipend for per call or any incentive for volunteers.
Yes.
Is that the one for the full-time?
The one for the full-time doesn't include any kind of a stipend for volunteers.
Yeah, so this stipend was on the extreme edge if we were operating on a full volunteer basis. If we get funded for full-time firefighters, we're gonna have to rethink our amounts, unless, because that is gonna increase the budget request. I mean, $140,000 a year is a lot.
I think you have to, Eric, to think about that. I mean, if we're really serious about trying to mend fences and bring back the volunteers that we have, whether we're at full paid firefighters and or we have the volunteers, I think
I don't disagree with you. I think we can do that. We'll go from the high end.
That brings that up
to
to 876,000, yeah.
I think Natalia caps at 35 for the most qualified.
We have the FEMA grant that pays for our stipends right now, or at least a portion of the stipends.
For the volunteers.
For the volunteers.
What is that number?
19,000.
A year. And it's paid per call
Up to-
based
you
on the
probably already
certification.
calculated that into here.
No,
No.
no, because that's a
I wonder
reimbursement.
why not.
Huh?
I kind of wonder, I kind of wonder why.
Yeah,
isn't
because it's a
that-
reimbursement.
So we pay it and then it gets reimbursed?
Well, we've never asked for that for the
Yeah.
EFT budget before.
No, we paid it last year and it got reimbursed.
You have to put the expense in a budget, just in case you don't put the grant.
So you haven't got the grant yet?
We have the
We have the
grant,
grant.
yes.
Do you have?
So out of the 19,000 last year, we paid out 9,000 in stipends, yes. And so that was reimbursed.
I'm just thinking it could have been, this number could be down by 9,000,
It could.
right?
A lot of these numbers could come down based on grants and sponsorships.
Right, no, yeah, I get that.
I'll ask the question that was asked before. Is the requirements for the number of calls that they go on for volunteers, is that, I mean, one of the things that I've heard is that it's said in a way that they couldn't possibly, if they had a full-time job, they couldn't meet the requirements, and that's why they were not eligible to be a volunteer fire department still. Are those qualifications for your volunteers now where they can actually be a full-time employee and be a volunteer and meet all their requirements?
Not at the moment, but that is part of our agenda discussions right now for the DVFD board. We're looking at that, how can we best get feasible requirements and still have them fully trained. That is something that we're trying to get to probably by the end of the quarter, possibly.
Yeah.
Because it takes a process to amend the bylaws.
Right.
But that is certainly an active discussion that we're having.
The bylaws currently state what they've had for the past at least 5 years, where it's, you must attend 75% of trainings and truck nights, but we've removed truck nights because the checks are all done by the paid staff. So now we do double training, so 75% of training. And then it currently reads 10% of all calls. which prior to October 1 of last year was about 366 calls a year. And now we're looking at about 1,600 calls a year, which is just not feasible. So then we've been toying with ideas of a, an on-station time requirement to replace that 10%. And so that's what we've been talking about.
So let me ask you this, Matt, are y'all going back and looking at, I mean, I know that there have been, based off of my understanding and conversations with y'all, there's been a lot of changes to the bylaws. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Can you go back and look at some of the old bylaws or what was in place to see what was working back then? I mean, I understand, I'm just asking a question. I know that things are changing, but I know that there's been things that have been in place for quite a few years prior to the last, 4 or 5 years when we started seeing, I wasn't around then, but just from what I've been told, a lot of the changes that started happening. So do you go back and look at that, or you're talking about toying around with things? I mean, how do we get it concrete?
So we actually, it's been hard to track down prior bylaws.
Ask me.
Correct. I'm looking right at Patrick right behind you, you'll have your time, Patrick, but there's a reason for me asking that question. That's the reason why I'm gonna ask that question.
Yes. Yeah, and so
I mean, that's volunteer right there. That was on this part of this fire department many years ago. So and many others that are here. So that's why I asked that question.
Yes. And so from what it looks like for me sitting and doing this kind of forensically is we had at one point in time adopted a policy system called Lexipool, and that's where the bylaws were being maintained. However, it didn't follow the change process that it should have been following. So I'm not sure which ones were official and which ones weren't through that system. And now we don't use that system anymore, and so that data is pretty much gone. But we have old Word documents for a few of them. And so that's why these requirements that I just stated to you have been at least the past 5 years. And that was working just fine. I mean, it was what was in place prior to all these big changes that just happened during my paid staff. Since then, we are still operating on those that are from, I believe it was 22 was the last adoption. And so we're operating on those, and we've actually had, and it's only been in the past 2 months, we've had now 8 amendments. And that's all that's changed since 22. So we're still using, a lot of the old bylaws.
What else here? We don't, nothing, Ken?
One of the things I'm looking at is basic differences in the budget, why there's so much of a variance here. One of the things one budget has for what you'd mentioned earlier about a battalion chief, or what the normal cost is for that. One budget has it for that, and another one budget has it for all those 6 paid firefighters, full benefits as well. And I think that's one of the major differences I'm thinking in these budgets is, and I'm not saying this has nothing to do with people who are the firefighters that are on now, but it's going to give you a better incentive. I mean, I see a better incentive for a firefighter that is going to be receiving benefits. You're going to get quality personnel for for everything, I believe. And I think that's going to be the major difference. A lot of the other stuff it's pretty much the same.
And so one of the things we did, and I'm sorry, we were going through and I handed y'all the budget. So the personnel number, which is the 90% of the budget, was $725,000. That was the personnel number of the budget they had. Our budget also included all of their debt. I say all. You have $100,000 in debt. So the total number was 1.1, right at 1.1. Yeah. But that included all potential, including the debt, the insurance, everything that's currently paid by this board. So just from a transparency side of that.
Right.
And yeah, so sorry, I missed covering that earlier. No problem.
I was actually just about to ask, if we pulled out all the things that this doesn't include, I'm curious what the other one would. I had to.
From the brief number that I heard, you're probably looking at about 160,000.
Difference.
That's real
Somewhere in that
close.
ballpark.
That's about what I
I
was.
spent the time pulling out what we normally take care of, and without payroll and those things that we take care of, it was 179.9.
Of course.
So really, really close to what their budget is without theirs. The big difference is the payroll and the benefits.
That is the majority of the budget.
Well, but whereas here, we're talking about training people up and then having them get recruited. And otherwise, we're talking about being the ones who are recruiting people. For a difference of.
Yeah, I'm not hiring folks.
For a difference of a couple.
They know that too.
I want to take questions from
Yes, sir.
anybody else.
All right, hold on a minute.
Wait a minute, you just talked. Any questions from the public?
Before Patrick jumps in, let me.
To be clear, so Mr. Ellinger had asked me a question about our requirements. I showed him our administrative directive that talks about volunteer requirements, 25 hours a quarter of training, and either 48 hours on shift or a majority of the station's fire calls. That's the way it's written. So just for transparency, that other is kind of crazy. So
Thank you. Daniel? Okay, so my name's Daniel Thomas. I've been in the fire for about 15 years. I went through 3 chiefs in that time, and like this is disturbing to be here and actually be how everything's collapsed here. But my thing is okay, what's the accreditation on code compliance? We didn't do any of that, but who has the accreditations to be writing the ticket for compliance?
AC, you want to take that?
Yeah, we do not initiate any citation for code compliance. We write violations.
Okay.
Cite city ordinances, notify the city, and then once a month, as the city's request, the citizens that have either not become compliant, they get a summons to appear before a prosecutor and a judge.
Someone has to write the ticket, go to the judge first?
No, they don't.
Oh, interesting, okay.
Come on, Dad.
I just thought you had to have a fire marshal come in and say you're not in compliance and you need to go to the judge.
We don't write tickets. We don't write citations.
Judges without.
All we do is send out letters of notifications of violations with city ordinances. And then they go in front of the city of Devine.
Okay.
The court clerk sends out the summons to appear before the judge.
Second question. I'm sure Patrick's gonna tell us about bylaws and constitutions, but
He'll only have 3 minutes.
I get it. So the bylaws and constitution, I understand the board's supposed to run the department and the chief is supposed to run personnel on scene or at the station taking care of apparatus or whatever, right? So what did y'all take out of the bylaws that, like, what board took out the bylaws? Like,
We didn't remove anything. We actually went back to how things should have been running.
then how did the chief get so much power without having the board?
I wish I could answer that. That was a failure on the board.
So I understand who was on that board.
I don't.
You don't know. Do you know? Does anybody know here?
It was Mike Walker did that.
Mike Walker did that?
God rest his soul. Yes, but that's who did that.
So there needs to be checks and balances, right?
Absolutely.
And like right now, like things I hear from Natalia, Bigfoot, Hondo, I'm still in contact with all the firefighters.
Sure.
And like, it's not nice. It's not, like, nobody wants to come back here with what's going on and what's been happening, and this is kind of like where we're at. Like,
It is where we're at, and I volunteered for this role.
I sure heard that.
Because I believe that with the right leadership, the right management, we can get it back to where it was. It may take some time, but I believe that we can get it back to where it was. And I would rather fail trying than not try at all.
Okay, all right, like I said,
3 minutes.
basically, done? Okay. Patrick, is all you make it quick?
Who's next?
Yeah.
Anybody give him one question? KK?
So, do you feel like you could work under ESD1 if they get the contract and build up your volunteer firefighters the same way that you're talking about doing? With all that your board leadership and taking control and getting people back, do you feel like you can build up the volunteer fire department while things are being handled by a well-oiled machine and you're kind of like flying the plane and building it as you go, trying to rebuild? Does that make sense?
The short answer is yes, but it's more complicated than just that, right? We don't know how the ESD is going to operate, what the parameters are, but the short answer is yes. I think it's a relationship issue more than anything else.
So I think that's something the board is probably wondering. You know, how do you keep the fire department and get someone to take care of things while you're still figuring things out?
As it transitions
and work together to make it all happen. And do you feel like that y'all could work with them?
So the way it works out is, yes, you have to look at the bylaws, and we look at how the bylaws are written. Obviously, their bylaws probably say they have a fire chief. That has to get updated. The chain of command of their bylaws has to be updated. And it would have to fall within, you know, our adopted guidelines and how we Yeah. I've never read their bylaws, so I can't have a whole lot of. But I think with the right relationship, you're right. And to be clear, and I believe this board knows this, I know I've said this several times, this has all been theoretical. My board has given me the permission to have this conversation, right? We have not entered into any negotiations for an interlocal agreement, right? So I still have a 5-member board that gets the ultimate say if this board decides, hey, we want to enter into an interlocal. So just keep that in mind, this thing is far, no matter which direction this ends up, this thing's far from being decided this evening, this week. There's a lot of stuff. I would hope that, you know, the current volunteers here, I mean, again, like I said earlier, they got some good folks here. Some passionate folks. And so I would hope that they remember that mission they have to the organization. Don't get caught up in this business side. For the responders, don't get caught up in the business side. Continue to serve your community and know this is going to work out the way it's supposed to.
Any other questions? KK, you get on that? Your 3 minutes is up.
By October 1st when the new contract is?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Do you feel like it's doable by October 1st when the new contract is, needs to be?
I think an interlocal could be probably agreed upon by then. There's a lot that goes into from a personnel side, yes. So to give you an idea, with ESD 6, it was a totally different situation. We had 2.5 weeks. But it was an expensive 2.5 weeks for ESD 6. I mean, expensive couple months while we rolled everything out. We covered everything with overtime, but it was an emergency situation. I think there's a way to work through this process that is manageable. There's no reason to rush it. Even if there's some expenses that need to be covered. If you know you're heading in a certain direction, it's doable. You know, hard deadlines are pretty, sometimes get you in trouble. If they don't have to exist.
They've got to set a tax rate and get budgets. So right. They've got to kind of sort of figure out where they're at.
That has to happen pretty quick.
But that was important to me to understand that the volunteer is willing to work under and he's willing to work if the two can work out if that decision in that direction.
From a leadership standpoint, the relationship is there. It will always be there. It really falls under how the volunteers react to the changes.
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong, my grandpa and great-grandpa was one of the ones helping this fire get started.
Yeah.
All my family members have been a part of it.
We're at 3 minutes.
I'll blame my brother. And it's important. The volunteer fire department, I get it.
These are good times too.
Thank you.
All right, anybody, any other questions? All right, yes ma'am.
I don't know, my family has been part of the fire department for the last 2 years. And I have heard what you've said, the board is going to take control at least 5 times by different boards. My husband was the leader and one was the president. This man here was the president once, and there was another man here, Patrick. It never happens. They sound so good, and they sound like, we're going to do it, but somehow the chief does not let them. and they get run out.
Well,
So I don't know how you're gonna be different.
the reality of that is the Devine Volunteer Fire Department Board hires the chief. So one of the things that we've been talking about is we're gonna have expectations, right? And that has to be part of the upfront conversation. Is you run fire operations on scene, but we are responsible for not just the department financials, the reputation of the department. So those things, and I don't know what happened in the past, and I can't guarantee you that if we hire a new chief that he won't try to railroad and then quit. We don't know. We don't know,
I
but
just wondered how you could keep that from happening, because I've heard that the chief has said, yes, we're behind you, we'll do whatever you say, and then when the board starts working, they say, hey, I want this record, this record, let's get rid of him, he's too shitty.
Can I respond?
absolutely.
So that is the issue that has basically been the downfall of 501c3s organizations for the extent of it. As a fire chief, so like me personally, as a fire chief, that's the model, that's where the breakdown happens, because the fire chief here, who are they truly responsible for? Because that group is responsible to the citizens. So is that fire chief work for them? Does it work for that group? That's the fracture that has usually become the downfall of organizations, especially in this situation. But that is the fracture, because it's hard to serve competing factions, right? There always has to be a single point. Like, who is ultimately in charge? You can't have one person ultimately in charges, right? The board is the ultimate say, because you're responsible to the taxpayers. You take taxpayer funds to provide a service. You have the ultimate responsibility. So that's a challenging but can it be done? It 100% can be done. I can show you where it's happened. In every one of those situations, it transitioned, where that fire chief went to go work for the board. Every one of them.
And you can't really tell what's in a person's head and heart when they come into a role, right? And that's where the management comes in. I can't guarantee anything. I can only follow the model that made me successful in business with managing personnel, managing budgets. I've had to deal with people that over the phone that were not even employees, they were shareholders. Right? So I can only do what I can do. I can only say that if it ever comes to a point to where it's unmanageable, I don't need to be here, and I throw my hands up and say, guys.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, but again, I would rather fail trying than not try at all. I really believe in that.
Okay, anybody else for questions?
I don't know. Is there any line officers that are standing board members for the fire department?
No.
No, that's not, okay. Because I know that had been done in the past, I didn't know if that was the same now.
Okay, any other questions? Any other questions?
Really? Okay, we're all done?
Your turn, Patrick. Go.
3 minutes.
Couple of things. If you need old Constitution bylaws, I've got them. I'll give them to you. Another thing is, and I'm sure Clint will correct me on this, if you have paid staff, your paid staff can't volunteer in an organization they're getting paid for, because that is,
correct.
They can't give free time to something that they're paid to do. The other thing,
That's 100% correct. There's no correction to be made.
there you go. So you can't give stipend to paid staff.
Right.
They cannot volunteer for your organization. The other thing is, as you well know, the fire department lost a lot of trust when they did what they did hiring the fire chief instead of going out. And they made those promises, and now I see that you have advertised it. I just looked at that. You've got a $50,000 difference from it. You're offering $50,000 to $100,000. Your budget is at $75,000. So you're already going to be over your budget in that aspect. The other thing that you mentioned was that you wanted to draw in enough money to have a reserve from the ESD board. That's not how that's supposed to work. The ESD board is the reserve. They set aside money so that if you need big projects, they'll pay for them if they approve those projects. You can't take taxpayer money and hoard it. That's not the way it's supposed to work. The chief situation has been ongoing for years and years. As I hope you well know, the president of the corporation is the legal sole responsible person for this corporation. If it goes belly up, they're coming after you personally and your personal property. So you can ask anybody. Ray Jaggy is a perfect example. He almost lost his farm because of that. And so I hope and pray that y'all really do stand up and run the organization like it's supposed to be run. Because I've been here a long time and it's never been done that way. So we hope as a community that you push forward with that. And I would be glad to support you in any way that you need. The direction of the fire department is totally up to the board. There's options that are out there. You've offered them so many different numbers, you're not given a clear view of where you want to go with the department. The stipend thing was already in the budget. The maintenance thing was already in the budget, so if you increase that or if you try to put that on the board now, then the problem is that the board or the fire department never went to the ESD board and said, these are the things we would like to do. We would like to hire staff. Will you support that? Now you're at the end game and you're like, hey, we need to pay these people because we don't want to fire them all. So y'all are on the hook for it. And that's not the way, this should be a joint effort between the two. And that's not the way that it's come about, and it's still not the way that it is now. And I'm sure I'm close out of time.
You're at your 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So the intention was never to hoard any money. The intention really is not to exhaust it because we can, right? And then it's wherever it sits for large expenses in the future. Ooh, that was a lot here to unpack. As far as the, I'm sorry, what was your last point? I'll give you the floor again. What was your last point?
That y'all need to be working, y'all need to have joint sessions with the board.
Yeah.
You need to have workshops with the board so that you can actually work out the numbers. And this board shouldn't get this paperwork the night of and say, oh, by the way, here's this information. They should get it a week prior so they can actually decipher some of this.
Right. I think one of the things you said is that we don't have direction that we're going, and you're right, because we're at a crossroads, right? We're trying to do a hard reset, and we're trying to find the best way to do that hard reset. So yes, we're looking for a little bit of direction, and I think the difference is as well today, and I don't know how it was yesterday, but we can talk to the board. We can offer them these numbers. The thing that it seems so sudden is I've had 2 weeks to really understand what's been happening, go through QuickBooks,
It's a mess.
interview, create, and even this, I was like, gosh, I hope my calculations are right because I know people. When I used to be in business and my staff used to provide, I look at their formulas. Oh, no, that's nerve-wracking. So yeah, it's a starting point. We don't have a clear direction. We're saying, okay, these are the things that we can do, and it's adjustable. What best fits the budget that we can afford? Is what we're asking. Now, we really want full-time firefighters, right? But we may not be able to afford that on the budget today, but maybe in 3 years, maybe in 5.
I've got another question.
So then based off of what we've just learned, you opened up the chief position, which is great, but you've got a salary of $50,000 to $100,000 on there. So you have a qualified individual that you're going to offer a position to once you go through that process, but you got to pay him $100,000, not $75,000. What are you going to do?
Yeah, so I reached out to Mr. Summers and I said, hey, can we hold off on posting the chief position until we know where we're going?
Sure.
I think he may have been okay with it. The board voted to post the position because that's really what was wanted. That's what we did. I'm really now trying to figure out what we're going to do retroactively here.
You have to go back, but that was the direction of this board, was to get that thing open based off of what happened
It's just taking so long.
And yeah, and I don't have a budget, an approved budget, I don't have anything.
But what's rough is that we're looking at this budget and it's estimated in here at 75,000, but it's gonna be actual 100,000 plus about 15% to make up for that other $25,000 of difference. And so,
He has no estimate.
well, but if
yeah.
you did hire the highly qualified person, but then that difference just keeps kind of getting narrower. And so I guess what I wonder is, are there other places where the budget might really not be an actual? Like,
Sure.
does that get closer and closer and closer? And if so, we're really striving to do the best we can with the money that we have. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So that's why it's hard for me, because it's taken so long to get numbers, and then it's hard for me to trust the numbers, and then hearing that the posting is for $25,000 more than what it says here, it's like, it just really makes me wonder what other numbers are gonna be different.
So there's always a range. When there's salaries, there's always a range.
Oh, I know.
And I opened with, hey, to get a good qualified fire chief in rural South Texas, you gotta do 80 or 85,000, so that may increase,
So then
right,
my question
15,000.
is, why doesn't this say 100,000 instead of 75,000?
They should be budgeted.
But then that's what we're looking at, is if you're going to put an offer out there for top end is 100 grand, then the budget should have seen that. So that way, if you're not going to offer 100 grand, then you put 15 grand. If you're going to look at 85,000, then you put 15 grand back in your pocket. But if you have to do that, now our budget isn't accurate anymore, because now you got to come back to the board and say, hey, I've got a qualified individual, but I need to pay him this dollar, not what we put in the budget.
Because this spread between the two options of like 160 just went down to 140 something, and if he's giving us a fatter budget and you're giving me a leaner budget, in between, that difference just keeps getting smaller and smaller. If we don't spend as much as he thinks we might, but we spend more than what you think, we're getting this much. We're getting a lot more narrow. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, but let me first say that, I'll address the fire chief salary in a second, but these, underneath the paid staff, these are actuals as best as we can extrapolate that we did last year.
That's fine. I think you also put the stipend in too on this.
Yes.
On the first one?
On the first one.
I agree.
If we were to go with the full-time staff, if you can't have the full-time staff and then depend on the volunteers, when you have two other budgets here, to proposals that you're willing to pay the stipend, but not over here.
Well, it's not that we're willing to pay it, it's just we considered having full-time staff and having pure volunteers.
Sure.
Not a stipend volunteer. Now, could that happen? Absolutely. Does the budget allow it? Those are things that, again, cannot be really thought about in actually 3 days' time.
I know these are hard questions. I know we're very direct about it, but we're trying to get to the best thing for this community.
Yeah, so our intent really is by our next ESD meeting to tighten these up a little bit more. Going back to the salary, and things may operate differently in other places, but when I offer a salary range in my old role, I'm probably looking mid, right? I'm never going to offer max.
Nobody ever does,
Right.
usually. I understand. I'm in that same world. I'm offering jobs right now. I'm not doing the back end, but when I go to my peers, I'm shooting, okay, we're going to open this, but I'm going to I need to make sure that we have the money to be able to pay this if I have a qualified individual.
Right.
We don't have that on this
And that's
budget.
what we're looking
That's
for.
what we're saying.
Like a really highly qualified individual, if we
Fair
were to
enough.
have an applicant.
But we've also talked about, this is what, the range is our bylaws. We've talked about adjusting our bylaws to fit a range for a highly qualified individual. So that, may change, so that mid kind of goes up. But I see what you're saying. If I change that to 100,000, it gives you a better picture of worst case scenario. I'm in a position of, I don't even know what you're willing to fund, so I'm trying to do the best finessing that I can.
For me right now, it's a question of which numbers to trust more, It's hard. It is really hard all around.
Yeah, so I think that from here down, they're exactly the same on every budget. Those are pulled from our QuickBooks. Those can be trusted with probably 90-95% confidence, and I say that because I group them manually. But up here, this is just trying to finagle numbers to fit something that's semi-attractive.
I have a couple of, do we have any volunteers that we owe money to?
No.
No, nothing like that? Okay. And if they ask for their training record or anything like that, we provide that to them when they, if we're, okay. Jeff, you've been quiet.
Any questions? So, I know in doing some research with some other ESDs, when it comes to paying stipends, there's only so much you can pay. And if you're paying a shift, 12 hours or something like that, that can constitute part-time, or
Yes.
that can't happen.
Yes.
So I think the per shift stipend is probably not something that will work. Now, per call stipend, I think that's typical. But that can only be so much too. I would hope that if we were able to do a stipend, that we can pay the max amount and still stay under that percentage, I guess is what they go off of. But one of the questions I have too is, the one budget here talks about the paid firefighters, and two do not talk about paid firefighters.
Right.
If we were to decide to go with one of these two, how do you plan on coverage between now and then, or October 1st?
October 1, you would go.
October 1, if we decided, okay, how would you cover with minimal volunteers right now? How would you plan on covering the area?
So I've been in talks with others and hoping that we can get some coverage from other departments. Worst case scenario, what would happen if everybody left, right? We need to continue operations. Pulling from other departments in the meantime. I'm only speculating, I won't even say this, but I would hope that if we went worst case scenario volunteers, we have this stipend, that we would have people on station coming in, responding to calls. The only difference would be they would respond from home, gear up and go out, as opposed to gearing up from here and going out. But there's contingencies out there that we can work on, which I have been working on.
Is that going to cost the board? Is that going to cost the board more money?
I don't know yet, because I don't have any solid yeses, nos, this is what we can do for you on the event. I don't know.
Okay.
Any other questions? So we want to just say thanks to all the public that came. Thank you both. Thank you for coming. Devine, our department, thank you for your needs. Again, thank you all so much. And it's great to have a community that have come out and question this and help us come up to a decision what we need to make on this. So again, thank you. Yeah, that's next. Okay. Did you guys do that?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Very quickly.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Bang the gavel.
Frankie.
Come on.
Don't want to wait
I saw you.
Come on.